Trigger freeze when you pull the trigger on your gun cycles, and then you do not reset the trigger. Instead, when you press in, it feels to you like the trigger's dead. What's causing that? Almost in every case, it's tension in your hand, like your firing hand clamps up with the tension because you're feeling the recoil's happening and doing that whole thing, and you tense up your hand and you can't reset the trigger. It'll feel like that. How do you fix that? Number one, I recommend against the technique where you're gonna ride the reset right until you hear that click and then press back through. I'm not trying to minimize that travel distance to my finger. I understand logically, it seems like, yeah, that would be faster if I minimize the travel distance of my finger, but what happens in practice is people start trigger freezing. So I'd let go of that if that's something you've got in your head. The main thing you're gonna wanna do though is in your dry fire, grip the gun hard with your firing hand and press into the trigger hard. Now, I don't try to grip the gun hard when I'm shooting it live. I try to just hold it. But in dry fire, if I'm gripping it hard and I'm pressing the trigger hard, twice as hard as I think I'd need to press to make the gun go off, then what's gonna happen is, yep, I'm gonna press into the trigger hard enough, then I'm gonna let my finger all the way off so it would reset. If it was a live gun, then I press in again. So if I'm using a Glock, this is how I do the trigger control. Press, click, and that's what it looks like when I'm doing dry fire. The Walthers, the trigger system on this doesn't go dead. So again, it's pretty easy to make sure I just take my finger all the way off the trigger. Yes, it would reset, then I can press back through. That's an easy one. Something like a CZ, what you can do occasionally, set the safety to on. I just have, and now I can press in and the trigger, the hammer won't fall, which will then put the trigger in the double action position, that kind of thing. That's not awesome. Instead, safety on and press, and again, finger all the way off the trigger so it would reset and then all the way back on. If you're training like that in your dry fire, I think you're gonna do a lot to mitigate trigger freeze.
Practical shooting training, got drills, live fire drills, some guidance for dry fire, some dry fire drills, lots of different places you can start. It works for people of all different levels. If you wanna train seriously with a handgun, especially for competition, this is the one to get.